Hello, Jack. How have you been since our last meeting?
Uh, I've been okay, I guess.
Okay is good. We can work with okay. As you know, we've been using a narrative approach while we've talked about your story and situation from your own perspective. Today, I want to try something called externalizing.
What's externalizing?
I was hoping you'd ask. Externalizing helps us remove the issue from ourselves. When we have a problem, we often take on that problem as part of our identity. With externalizing, we remove that identity and view our problem as an issue outside of ourselves. For example, if someone considers themselves to be an angry person, we'd have them imagine their anger as an external entity. Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess it just sounds kind of,
Silly.
yeah.
I know it sounds a little strange, but let's just try it out. We can stop if you feel uncomfortable or if you just don't like it.
Okay, it's worth a shot.
Okay, so I know something we talk about often is the anxiety you feel regarding your living situation. You're unable of where you're going to be living and you're worried about whether or not you'll even be able to move back to your reserve.
Yeah, plus I feel a lot of anxiety about reconnecting with my family, especially my sister. Because the reserve we live on is such a tight-knit community, I know people have been talking about what happened and talking about me, and I'm scared they'll all judge me for what I did and not want me to come back. I just feel like I'm consumed with anxiety. It's like my only personality trait at this point.
Exactly. You've been experiencing quite a lot of anxiety. It's not uncommon to feel like an emotion we experience so often becomes part of us. But it's important to remember that you are not your anxiety. You're not an anxious person. You're just a person with anxiety.
Well, I know that in theory, but in practice, it can be a lot harder.
Yeah, I think externalizing may be helpful for you. So I want you to imagine your anxiety as a separate being from yourself, someone who follows you around and annoys you.
Like a little gremlin?
Exactly. And that little gremlin is your anxiety. So tell me, what does it look like?
Well, aren't I a little too old for this?
Humor me.
Okay. It's tiny. Um, it's small enough, but I can see it. And the people that are close to me can see it too. But most people can't see it, or they choose not to. And it's bright, like the kind of bright yellow that gives you a headache.
That's a really good description. See, I knew you could do this. Now tell me, what are some things that your anxiety likes?
What do you mean?
When do you feel like your anxiety is happy? Like it's especially out?
Oh, okay. I guess anytime I'm talking with someone about home, either them going home or me going home or what home was like before. And whenever I talk to someone from back home, I don't talk to my family often, but sometimes someone from school will ask me where I am or something. I never had a lot of friends at school, so I know they're just asking so they have something to talk about or just see stuff that's happening back home. Like as much as I want to go back home and stuff, the idea of it makes me worry about having to deal with people knowing where I was and why. Like seeing people post on Instagram about school and dances and football games makes me excited, but it also excites my anxiety. Who knows what it would be like if I was there.
That's really good, Jack. I'm impressed with your insight. Now let's talk about some things your anxiety doesn't like.
Hmm. Well, for starters, when I talk to you or some of my other counselors, it's nice to be able to talk to people I know won't judge me. Also, journaling.
Why do you think your anxiety doesn't like journaling?
I think it's because I really have time to think things through. It's not like a thought where I sort of react right away. I get to think things through logically.
Really good, Jack. Now, this next one's a little bit more difficult. What's your anxiety's purpose? Like, why does it exist?
Oh,
Yeah, take your time on this one.
um, Maybe to protect me.
Good. Keep expanding on that. Protect you from what?
Well, for starters, stop me from reoffending. The guilt alone, though, is enough to stop that. And I think also to keep me from disappointments.
Mhm. What do you mean by that?
Like keep me from getting my hopes up. On the rare occasion where I talk to my mom, sometimes I'll start feeling like maybe she wants me to move home. But then my anxiety starts telling me all these awful things about how she'll never want me back with her again, or that she hates me, or that I'm unlovable.
Wow. That sounds quite intense.
Yeah, this last year hasn't been easy.
Just the past year? Or how long has your anxiety been involved in your life?
Well, if I'm being honest, probably since I was about 5.
Okay. Could you tell me about when you first met your anxiety?
Um, so I guess we first met when I was about 5 years old. It started when my parents' friend molested me. I remember worrying about why it was happening to me or if I did something to provoke it. And then I was worried I would get in trouble for it. I thought I was doing something wrong. And for years afterwards, I worried about me getting in trouble if I told somebody. It took me years to tell my mom. I thought she would yell at me and blame me, or I was worried that the man who molested me would be mad that I told on him.
Wow. So you and anxiety go way back.
Yeah, looking back, my anxiety has been one of the only constant things in my life. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't around at this point.
Interesting. So it sounds like anxiety is something that's always been in your life.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. I think this could be a great time to use what we have learned in externalizing to find some exceptions or unique outcomes.
What are exceptions and unique outcomes?
Great question, Jack. Finding exceptions to some of our externalizations, or in your case, anxiety, can be a very powerful way of rewriting the story you have about anxiety. An exception or unique outcome can be found when we explore times when anxiety was not present in your life or that your day. How does that sound?
I mean, we can try, but I don't feel like this is going to work.
Try keeping an open mind and you might be surprised.
Okay, let's try it.
Sounds great. Can you tell me about a time where you stopped anxiety from overwhelming you?
Hmm, that's tough. Well, I remember one time my family had a friend stay over that I'd never met before. After our old family friend molested me, I never really trusted my friend's parents anymore, or my parents' friends anymore. Throughout the evening, I got to know my parents' friend more, and I learned that I had a lot in common with them. At the end of the night, when I went to my bed, I still ended up locking my door, which also helped me with my anxiety. I think when I stopped letting my imagination think the worst thing possible about people, it really helped me take control of my anxiety that day.
Jack, that's a great example. Being able to teach yourself to be anxiety free in a situation like that is something to be very proud of. It shows a lot of maturity and gives us some proof that you have the tools to overcome anxiety in other areas of your life. When thinking back to that moment now, after we reframed it, it was an exception. What are your thoughts about that?
Hmm. Honestly, I never really thought about that moment too much until you asked that question. I guess you make a good point. I don't know why I never really gave myself credit for that sort of thing.
It can be very difficult to change the narrative that we tell ourselves. But through using externalization and finding exceptions, we make it possible to reauthor our own stories. To answer your question, when we have difficulty giving ourselves credit for these exceptions to the rule when the narrative we tell ourselves becomes problem saturated.
Problem saturated. What does that mean?
That is a great question. A problem-saturated narrative means the stories we tell ourselves can become centered around the issue that's bothering us, like in your case, anxiety. When this happens, we don't pay attention to times in our lives that don't match up with the problem-saturated story we keep telling ourselves. For so long, anxiety has been part of your story, which has made it hard for you to see when it's not present in your life.
Wow. I think I've been doing that for years, and I can't believe I'm just noticing it now.
It is a powerful insight. What do you think your ability to resist anxiety tells us about you as a person?
Hmm. I think says that I'm a lot more capable of overcoming difficult situations in my life that I've given myself credit for in the past.
Great point. And what does your ability to resist anxiety mean for the future of your relationship with your family and your community?
Um, I think this means that even though I might feel anxiety when I go to meet with my family or talk to my family or go back to my community, that I actually do have the tools to deal with these feelings.
Exactly. You've had some great realizations today. So we've done some externalizing and we found some valuable exceptions. Our next step is to thicken the new plot that we will be able to make through highlighting your exceptions.
I think I'm lost again. What do you mean thicken?
When I say thicken the new plot, what I mean is that we will work together to create a new narrative that integrates your ability to manage uncomfortable feelings like anxiety. An exercise like this can be useful for when you meet with your family, return to your community, and become reintegrated with your school.
I'm willing to try it. I really want to stop these feelings from controlling me the rest of my life.
That's great to hear. Let's try thickening. What's another time in your life that you overcame anxiety?
Hmm. Well, I think 2 years ago when I had to switch schools, which it caused me a lot of anxiety. But in my first class of the day, I started talking to one of the kids that sat beside me in math class because he was wearing a basketball sweater, and that's my favorite sport. We ended up becoming really good friends, and it helped me get to know a lot of the other kids in class. I was able to stop my anxiety by finding something in common with people that I felt confident talking about.
Another great example. Can you describe what you were thinking and how you felt before that happened?
Um, I remember feeling very anxious and overthinking before I spoke to him. But once I saw his basketball sweater, I kind of just forgot about being nervous.
Okay. And how did you feel after?
Well, after I felt great. He introduced me to other kids. We played basketball, and it was a great way to meet a lot of friends really quickly.
Okay. And was this a good thing or a bad thing for you?
It was a great thing. It made being at that school so much more cool for me.
Okay. How has this moment impacted your life since?
Thinking back, I think it's had a really big impact. I'm realizing now that this moment really made it possible for me to meet all of my new friends at that school. It also made me much more involved in sports. Sports gave me an excuse to travel with my friends, and I made friends from different schools that played on other sports teams. I actually can't believe how much that one moment changed my life.
Awesome. These sorts of realizations are great. Through thickening this narrative about you overcoming anxiety and improving your life, it can provide you with a strong alternative narrative to use when you begin to doubt yourself.
That's awesome. I bet there are so many other times I've been able to deal with anxiety and other challenges I've faced, but I've been too stuck in my problem saturated stories to be able to notice.
That's a great observation. I can't wait to see what sort of new insights you bring to our next session that will be informed by your new lens with the world. We're not done quite yet. I'd like you to do one more thing to help us thicken this new plot.
Okay, let's try it.
Next, we're going to link our new thickened exception to the past and present. The goal here is to show you how you have always had the strengths and skills to deal with the challenges you face, which is also true of the future. If I were watching you earlier in your life, prior to you changing schools and making that new friend, what do you think could have helped me understand how it was possible for you to make those changes that you did?
Hmm. I think that you would have noticed how, although I can be really shy, I think that finding things in common with people has really helped me throughout my life to feel more comfortable. People always say that I'm really quiet, but if we start talking about my favorite sport or TV show, I could talk all day.
Wow. It sounds like you've developed a lot of self awareness around how you can best thrive in situations that cause a lot of anxiety for you. How do you think these skills will be able to translate when you move back in your community in the future?
In the future, I think I'll be able to use my relationship with my family and community to build back our relationships. Even though I'm nervous about it, today has made me realize that I've dealt with difficult emotions before successfully. I know I have the skills to be able to deal with the challenges the future will bring.
It is so great to be able to hear you realize that you had all these skills available to you all along. Our session today is coming to a close, but there are a few important tools in narrative therapy that you might find useful. I would like to try using an outside witness that can help you reaffirm you are in charge of the narrative in your life. The role of this person is to point out to you when you are using positive narratives that go against the problem saturated story that has always been present in your life.
Yeah, I think my friend John would be really great for this.
Great. Let John know you're trying to change the story you tell yourself about anxiety and other challenges you face. See if he would be willing to point out exceptions that may not have been obvious to you at the moment, and if you could highlight positive storylines that you're establishing.
Wow, what a great idea. The fact I don't have to do this alone makes me feel so much better.
That's great. I was really hoping you would say something like that. If you ever find yourself struggling, another tool available in narrative therapy is journaling. Journaling can provide you with a way to document your thoughts and experiences in real time. Writing is a great way to see how narratives are being created and thickened over time.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all of these tools. And I can't wait to start reauthoring the stories that I've been telling myself for so long.